So I got a Instagram message that just said, hey, I'm gonna be in town on Wednesday. Will you still have any food left? And I'm like, I beg your pardon? So the first thing I did was call my wife. And I'm like, you're not gonna believe who just sent me a text message. And she's like, who? And I said, Daniel Vaughn. Daniel Vaughn is the lead editor of Texas Monthly magazine. And Texas Monthly is hands down the greatest publication about barbecue in Texas. To me, a visit from Daniel was the equivalent of me getting a Beard Award or a Michelin star. Daniel came in and had lunch with us. And one of the coolest things about the article that Daniel wrote about us was he called our brisket, and I quote, praiseworthy, which I define as good enough to take back to Texas and serve. That was a home run in my book. The name of the article that Daniel wrote about us is named after a Willie Nelson song. This Texas barbecue joint is perfectly at home in Nashville. Shotgun Willies is my second favorite Willie Nelson song. My first favorite Willie Nelson song is I Gotta Get Drunk, but I felt like I Gotta Get Drunk barbecue wasn't really the right direction to go. Being from Texas, Willie Nelson music is in my DNA, and I'm a huge Willie Nelson fan. If you know the Willie Nelson story, he came to Nashville, was kind of striking out as a songwriter and a singer, and so he went back to Texas and kind of started doing his own thing. And when he started doing his own thing, that's when he started taking off, and that was like when he was 40. I think the big takeaway from the Willie Nelson story is it's never too late to start. I say a lot that I'm too old for this, and in a lot of ways I am. It is a young person's game. 50 years old wasn't really the time to get into this as a professional. If you've got a dream or you've got a passion, it's never too late to follow your dream or follow your passion. We are open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch from 11 to 3 or until we sell out. So on Tuesdays, we get here about 7 o'clock in the morning. Tuesdays is just our cook day for Wednesday service. Try to put ourselves in a good position when we get here on Wednesday, that we're not necessarily starting from zero. So we serve Texas-style barbecue at Shotgun Willie's, and when folks ask me, well, what's Texas-style barbecue, I tell them it's beef-centric. Starts obviously with the meat, and good meat gives you good results. So we serve Black Hawk Farms American Wagyu brisket. It is substantially different flavor profile than a prime brisket, and that makes me really happy because I know we're serving the best product to people, and that's what I've wanted to do from day one. The number one thing people overlook when cooking a brisket is the trim. I have preached that to everyone who's ever trimmed a brisket for us in this building, is you win or lose on that cutting board. When you master the art of trimming a brisket, you're going to see a substantial change in how that brisket cooks and your end results. I can't tell you how much it drives me nuts watching people season and leave extra seasoning on the table. First time I ever saw Goldie's video with them seasoning briskets, I was like, my anxiety went through the roof. I'm like, they're probably losing thousands of dollars a year in rub just on that table. All that rub could be reused. You're leaving money on the table. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how to trim, I'm not gonna tell you, but by God, man, save that seasoning. Brisket, it's not a sauce-driven product. When it comes to the seasoning part of it, it's a very minimal seasoning. We literally just use salt and pepper and a touch of seasoned salt. I do like to use 2 different types of pepper. I'll use a 10 mesh and a 16 mesh. I'm a fan of a peppery brisket. See, and look at that, guys. Look at all that leftover rub. Just here to help. Just want to save everybody money. So our smokers at the old place had a nice little pit room and everything, and we hit a little bit of delays with our construction, and so our pit shed is on order but not installed yet. So the fact that there hasn't been a mutiny just shows you the caliber of people that I have helping me out on this thing. My favorite thing about cooking brisket is the time it takes to cook it. It slows me down. We're kind of communicating throughout the whole process. I'm paying attention to what it's doing. I'm managing a fire. Through the process, I'm getting better every day at what I do, and I'm learning more about what I do. When I'm prepping the briskets, I'm seeing the shape of them, who's thicker, who's thinner, who's bigger, who's smaller. The thickest and the biggest will go to the front towards the back, and then we'll kind of assess them and put them in like biggest to smallest. So the thinner ones or the smaller ones or the leaner ones will go all the way in the back of the smoker. So we have 2 smokers made by Primitive Pits. We have a 500-gallon smoker, and then we have a new one, which is another Primitive Pit that's 1,000-gallon. So the 500-gallon is, his nickname is Joe, but it's Jose. It's named after the world's greatest baseball player, Jose Altuve. And the big one is named after Earl Campbell. So he's called Earl. Joe just goes to work, man. He just shows up and goes to work. And Earl's just one of the most balanced smokers. It's a nice piece of equipment. We'll run the big pit on the weekends. Our weekday cooks, our Wednesday, Thursday cooks are relatively slow or relatively smaller. As we continue to grow, hopefully we're running both of these guys. So we cook with white oak here primarily because it's what's prevalent in Tennessee. I can't get post oak in Tennessee. And while I like hickory, pretty much every other barbecue place in town cooks with hickory. So I wanted to make sure that our flavor profile just stood out a little differently than what the other folks are doing. Gonna get it around 250. I still got some pork shoulders to put on, but we're looking at about an 8-hour, 9-hour cook today, hopefully. The thing that I love about barbecue the most, when I get out there and I'm around it, there's a calming nature to it because I know that I have to do it at its pace. Once I get these guys on, I'm buckling in. It's gonna take a serious amount of time that I can't adjust. When that first hour of the cook, when I've got everything on, it's not in and out, and I make a cup of coffee and I just sit out there for that first hour, I just hear the birds, or I hear the wind, or I hear the fire. So it almost has a very Zen-like and calming effect. Remember kids, lift with your legs, not with your back. Texas style barbecue differs from Tennessee style barbecue. I think the primary thing is the meat itself. Texas being beef centric and Tennessee in the Southeast being more pork centric. I think Texas barbecue, for lack of a better term, is a little more simple in the sense of very simple seasoning, very basic seasonings. With Southeastern style, a lot more going on in the rubs.
You said this rub is a little bit different than the brisket rub?
This rub is different. I don't know if you want to call it a Memphis style rub or more like a Tennessee style rub in a way. It's got some raw sugar. It's got cayenne, paprika, cumin, dry mustard, garlic, onion, pepper, and salt. So my Texas roots. So I grew up in Houston, fell in love with barbecue, I think when I went to Luling City Market in Luling, Texas. Good Company Barbecue in Houston, and Harold's Barbecue in Abilene, Texas. We used to cut Chapel to go over to Harold's and get barbecue and the hot water cornbread. What I want to do with Shotgun Willie's, and one of my goals was, if you grew up in Texas and you had ever been to some small town barbecue shop, you would walk in here and go, oh, this just reminds me of XYZ that I used to go to when I was a kid. I wanted to bring that small town Texas meat market experience to Nashville. I'm very true to my Texas roots and very proud to say that I am able to bring something that I grew up loving in an atmosphere that I grew up in to the city that I live in now. I've heard stories of people trimming pork shoulders and I don't get it. If you're making pork shoulder, Shotgun Willie recommends just put them on. Wherever that little cut of bone is where you can feel that, I like to put that towards the fire because it kind of gives me a hand. When it comes time to pull it off, sometimes the shoulder will stick to the grate. It gives me just a little bit of leverage, like almost like a little handle Plus you got the big meaty side facing the fire. See, we got a little extra. We'll just put that on top. I don't look 8 miles down the road for comparison. When I go home and I eat out, when I go to Truth, how am I doing in comparison to this and what can I be doing better? When I go to Pinkerton's, how am I doing in comparison to Pinkerton's and what can I be doing better? I couldn't do it any other way. I would be a bigger imposter here if I was doing Memphis style barbecue.
I noticed you don't like to close the damper at all.
No, we just run wide open.
Yeah. Just like the way the air flows better.
We do it in a method that is true to the origins of Texas barbecue and live fire cooking. And I do think that makes a difference. And we have people who, whether it's myself or any one of our pit guys, they care about what's on that smoker and what comes off of that smoker at the end of the day. I used to have those little field notebooks and they were just filled. And like I said, I took a note every 15 minutes. This is how detailed I used to be in my cooks. Like the John Nash and A Beautiful Mind, like I'm writing on windows and like, yeah, I used to give myself grades. Look at that. Look at me giving myself an A+. I knew that was gonna. Well, these two are ready. I'm gonna wrap them all. I'm gonna go ahead and do them all. We've started doing the foil boat method because I like what it does with the bark and just keeps it a little crunchier. We'll pull them off more to feel than to temperature, and we'll foil boat them for probably the last 2 hours of the cook. And that's it. That's the big secret. What makes my brisket different? The biggest difference is that we care about the brisket and we pay attention to the cook. It is what we hang our hat on here in Nashville. If I say I'm gonna be Texas barbecue, then I have to do pretty much what the gold standard of Texas barbecue is to the best of my ability. Barbecue isn't all glamour. Sometimes it's putting away the dishes.
So what are you looking for to know when they're done?
I like to poke around it with the thermometer and to see how much resistance with the thermometer. Then I like to just kind of tuck my finger under kind of about where the decal was, see how tender that is. And if it's feeling like soft to the touch, little resistance but still soft, that's when I'll pull it. When your pork shoulders are 203 degrees, you're going to take them off your smoker and you're going to wrap them up in some cellophane. And you're going to want to hold them for at least an hour. So what that does is it keeps that pork shoulder nice and tender. So if you're not serving all of it at once, a lot of places or a lot of folks will just shred it all at once and you'll keep hitting it with grease. And then you get like a real mushy product. That residual heat's going to keep them nice and warm for a very, very long time. The longer you can set that in there and let those juices redistribute, that's going to make for a really tender shoulder. Getting through the pandemic was kind of like my litmus test to I can get through anything. I still to this day do not understand how we're standing. We couldn't have survived a 2-week shutdown. We didn't get one dime of PPP money because we opened too late. We just woke up and went to work and hopefully enough people came through the door that we could do it the next day. The scariest days of the week when I had payroll, rent, and groceries all on the same Monday. There were weeks we started with $70 in the bank, and I'm not exaggerating. I never laid off an employee, I never missed a payroll, and I never bounced a check. The hardest part of the journey was taking the next step forward. I have experienced some of the highest highs I've ever felt in my life. I faced some of the most difficult challenges. Nothing about this has been easy, but I wouldn't change one part of it. But I wouldn't trade any of this. It's made me a better me, and I'm very thankful that I'm able to live the life that I truly want to live, the way I want to live it. Kitchen folks get here about 8 o'clock, start getting prepped up and ready to go to have everything on the line by 11 o'clock. We need to get all our sides prepared and done, get our baked goods. We bake fresh every day. It'll never get bigger than this. We'll never have a second location. If we can't make it work in here, it is what it is. The funny thing is, or the interesting thing is, I never realized how small the old location was. We had a tiny kitchen and we had limited refrigeration capabilities and on and on and on. And I'm like, I can't believe we did what we did for 4 years and no one got murdered. And to be in a space where I can literally put my arms out and not touch anyone, I never in a million years imagined owning a restaurant this big. Yeah, this is nuts. I have a wonderful kitchen staff. Cody handles all the sides, making and prepping the sides. Matt handles a little bit of side prep, but does all my baking. Marissa serves up the sides and then does some side prep in the morning as well. I've got Joanna, who is our cashier, and she runs all things cash related. Chris comes in on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I love how I found Chris. Chris came in and was buying a bottled drink, so I just happened to say, hey, don't worry about that. You can just come back here and wash some dishes for a little bit. We don't have a dishwasher on Wednesday and Thursday. Well, at Thursday morning at 10:45, who is knocking on my door with her rubber gloves and her apron? It's Chris. And I haven't been able to get rid of her since. And finally, Mr. Tony, the legend, Mr. Tony, he's my mentor, my right-hand man. I don't know where this place would be without this guy, to be honest with you. He's a fantastic human being. I'm very, very lucky to have the crew behind me that does what they do every single day, and I couldn't do it without them. I truly couldn't. I tried it once and it didn't work. What would I say that the unsung hero is on our menu? What's the one thing that people just don't eat enough of? I'm gonna say it's our smoked chicken. I love this chicken. There's something about adding smoke to chicken that changes the entire complexity of it. Don't sleep on this chicken. It's good stuff. Our ribs, they're a Duroc spare rib. They are arguably the best spare ribs. They're a meaty rib. There are days I cut off a half rack, and I swear to you, if I only served you 3 ribs, you would not tell me you didn't get enough food. I'm looking for more of a flex in them. So probably about a 15-degree bend if you get your protractor out. We will hit them with a little bit of sauce before we wrap them up in cellophane to hold them.
How y'all doing today? Welcome to Shotgun Willies, or welcome back. Our menu will be on the back wall for you when you're all set to order right at barbecue time. How you doing? Good, good.
I love cutting meat and plating meat as much as I love cooking it. I think the cutter's role, you're kind of an MC. What can I get for you? Hi.
Can I get the brisket, please?
Plate, sure, for here to go. For here, do you like lean brisket, fatty brisket? Fatty for the lady. What's your sides for you? I will greet you when you come in and take your order. You're welcome to do everything a la carte if you like, but we do plates and sandwiches. We'll do a plate with a 1/2 pound of meat and 2 sides. Sandwich will be a 1/3 pound of meat and 1 side. The closest thing we have to like a sampler plate is the Texas Trinity, which is a pound of brisket, a half a rack of ribs, 2 sausages, and 2 medium sides. I love, in a weird way, showing off what we did. This is what we did, and I'm going to present it to you in this really great fashion, like that looks good, that gets you excited about what you want to eat. Hopefully that experience just continues to amplify itself throughout the whole time that you're visiting us.